Chapter 16, in which the Newsies are treated to a fancy lunch. If by fancy lunch you mean lunch at Tibby's, because that's exactly where they're going. Brian Denton's article appeared on the first page of the New York Sun. I wonder if it was above the folds. Above the folds. Yeah, whatever. Along with a double column cut, a big portrait of the more prominent Newsies, drawn by an artist who was specifically employed by the Sun for his lightning-fast sketching skills.
Jack, boys, freeze!
Which is it? Kenny Ortega and or Jonathan Last? Was it a sketch artist or a fucking camera? Like, seriously. Make up your minds, buddy. To celebrate their success, Denton invited all the boys to lunch at Tibby's. The Newsies, including Spot Conlon, who clearly considered himself the hero of the day, were seated at a long table, and each one was presented with a copy of the paper, all the cold-cut sandwiches they could eat, all the sarsaparilla they could drink, and an unlimited supply of pickles and coleslaw.
Wow.
Pickles, yes. Coleslaw, no. For many of them, it was their first time in their lives that there were enough food to fill their bellies, and they ate accordingly. I envision it to be like that scene in Hook. Like, where there's like... David and Les wrapped food in napkins and hid it in their pockets and shirts so they could take it home to their family. Nice. Denton, noticing but not wishing to embarrass them, said nothing. He had been poor once himself and understood how it felt to worry about where the next meal was coming from. If one thing marred the happiness and excitement of the meal was the absence of Crutchy, still locked up in the children's refuge. They drank a toast to him, and Jack vowed that he would free him, somehow, within the week. Most of the rest of the meal was spent on congratulations. Denton congratulating the Newsies congratulating Denton, and everybody congratulating themselves on being masters of the universe. Until finally David rose and put a stop to it. If we're going to keep this strike going, we'll need a strike fund, he said. Some of you guys can make up a collection box. Yeah, make up collection boxes, Mush said, and we'll put them all over town. What the fuck? People are going to steal that money. It's 1899. Nobody has cash. Like, they're going to steal that shit. Several boys got right to work. That being said.
Maybe in 1899 they should dedicate a PayPal account.
They should get a dedicated PayPal account. Now there's another problem, David went on. Denton's paper, The Sun, is the only one that's been covering the news of our strike. Yeah, Jack said, because you've been boning him. We've got to do something so big that nobody can ignore it. Like what? Racetrack asked. They all fell into thinking. I've got it, said Jack. We'll have a rally. The biggest, noisiest blowout this town's ever seen. It'll be a message to the big boys. David said that. What the hell? I hate this book. There's a lot of us, and we ain't going away. We'll fight until doomsday to get our fair share. Where will you hold it? Denton asked. My apartment's not big enough. I know just the place, Jack said. All I got to do is convince a certain Swedish songbird I know. Da, 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 wink, wink, nudge, nudge. David noticed that all the children who worked in the restaurant had stopped their chores and were listening, as though hypnotized. When Jack finished, one of them began to cheer. A hand grabbed the little fellow by the shoulder and yanked him back into the kitchen. At the other side of the room, the restaurant manager scowled. Time for another history lesson. From Jonathan fucking Last. At the time of our story, there was nothing unusual about restaurants employing children. Nearly 2 million children in the United States, some as young as 7, were working full-time, and this figure, large as it was, did not include those employed as messengers, shoe-shine boys, street vendors, or newsboys like Jack and David. What was life like for child laborers? They woke up at 5 or 6 in the morning, ate some porridge or bread, and walked to work in the dark, even in storms or freezing rain. So stop your bitching the next time you have to walk to this bus stop to go to school, okay? Like, they worked in the mills, the tobacco fields, the canneries, restaurants, mines, and meatpacking plants. 12 to 14 hours a day for a wage of 25 cents. Often they had to stand on boxes to reach the machines they were operating, and if they fell asleep, they might be awakened by a foreman throwing a bucket of cold water over their heads. Or they might be awakened because their arm is getting, like, gnawed off by a machine. I don't know, whatever. Accidents were common. The law said children had to attend school for at least 14 weeks a year, but people ignored the rule and there were few inspectors to enforce it. At night, children were so tired that they would fall asleep while eating their dinner, so stop your bitching the next time you have to eat spaghetti. Chapter 16, in which Nigel Snyder picks up Jack's trail. The Newsies weren't the only ones examining front-page illustration in the Sun that afternoon. Down at the waterfront in the gloomy place known as the House of Refuge. Nigel Snyder was sitting in his office inspecting the picture with a magnifying glass. Pulitzer does that shit. Since when is Nigel Snyder blind? And since when is Nigel Snyder's name Nigel?
Since the first chapter.
That's bullshit. I fucking hate Nigel. He had recognized one of the faces in the illustration as Francis Sullivan, the boy who had humiliated him by escaping from the refuge on the top of the carriage of Theodore Roosevelt. Snyder had vowed to put him back behind bars forever, but how to find him? The boy was using a false name. Of that, Snyder was certain. Snyder had combed the city for him, looking everywhere that an orphan might find shelter. What the fuck? Not long ago, he had come across Sullivan entirely by chance and had chased and nearly captured him. But at the last instant, the boy had gotten away by crossing a bridge of boards connecting two rooftops and then knocking the boards away before Snyder could follow. Now, thanks to this picture, he knew the boy was a newsie and involved in the strike. If only he knew his name and where he was living. This is where our dear friend Crutchy comes in. Yay, Crutchy! Way to ruin shit. Crutchy had been honored with the chance to dust the office that day and was circulating around the desk with his feather duster. When he happened to glance over Snyder, showed a fucking feather duster. See the illustration. Hey, look, he exclaimed. It's Jack Kelly, and he looks just like himself. Snyder turned his vulture-like features towards the boy. I can't handle this. You know this boy? Him? Crutchy instantly realized his mistake. No, I don't know him.
Dun.
He looks like my cousin, but now that I inspect the photo closer, the photo? Did photo exist, like, as a short-term, like, word? Somebody, Google, YouTube, somebody, Google, did the word photo exist? Like, I see there's really no likeness at all. There's difference as peas and potatoes. Well, better get back to my dusting. Want to get this office spick and span. Despite Crutchy's attempts to cover his mistake, the sparkle in Snyder's eyes showed that the damage had been done. When Jack and David got to Irving Hall, the show was already in progress. The audience watched, entranced, while a man in white tights rode a unicycle around the stage, juggling 4 pie plates while balancing a 5th on a pole on his nose. The newsboys bluffed their way backstage and found Meta standing in the wings wearing one of her fabulous feather and sequin gowns while waiting to go on. They explained quickly that they wanted to rent her theater for a rally that would bring the cause of the newsboys to everybody's attention. A rally so big the other newspapers couldn't ignore it. Meta hesitated. Darlings, you know that I love you, quite literally, and I support your strike and wish you all the luck in the world. But I'm not running a union hall. This is a theater. A temple of art. What the fuck? We got money, Jack said. Excuse me. Jack said. It ain't a lot, but it's something. We'll take a collection at the door, David said. We'll pay whatever you want. It's not the money, Meta said. I depend on the papers for my business. As long as they give me rave reviews, the theater is full and I can enjoy life. But a few bad reviews and poor Meta will be on a tramp steamer back to Sweden. You're scared of them too, David said with surprise and not a little disappointment. And I well should be, Meta said. Once it's written in a newspaper, everyone believes it, even if life itself shows the facts to be otherwise. If the world says I am a tone-deaf magpie, people will cover their ears even if I sing as sweet as a nightingale. They have the power to destroy people. Believe me, I have seen it. They can't destroy us, David said, because we're right, and the truth always wins out. You are so very young, Meta said softly, brushing a lock of hair back from David's face. But you must excuse me. It's time for my number. David's heart sank. Womp, womp, womp. She took a step towards the stage, then turned back to them. Scheduled for Monday night, boys. That's when the theater is dark. In the lobby of Klopman's rooming house, the Newsies were lettering posters and handbills announcing the strike rally that was to be held at Irving Hall that Monday. They were so intent on their work that they failed to notice a sinister form in a black suit and top hat enter the boarding house, make his way to the counter where Klopman worked, and leaf through the register where he kept the names of the boarders. Who knows how long he might have kept at it if Klopman hadn't appeared. What are you doing back there at my register? Klopman demanded angrily. Looking for a lad named Jack Kelly, Nigel Snyder replied. I have reason to believe that he is an unrepentant criminal, an escaped prisoner, and a danger to society. Klopman gazed at him a long time and then shook his head. Nobody here by that name. Perhaps one of the boys knows him, Snyder said, turning to the Newsies, who had ceased work and were watching him suspiciously. There's a reward for one who can lead me to Jack Kelly. He peeled a $10 bill from a money roll and waved it under their noses. $10. It was a month's income and more. Okay. Unusual name for these parts, Snipe Suitor and Not Specs said. I knew a Jack somebody once, Skittery said. For the first time in the entire novel, he had a line. Probably not the same guy. Were he the fellow with the mole on his cheek, Mush said, the cauliflower ear and the busted nose. As they were speaking, Snyder picked up one of the leaflets and examined it with interest. Racetrack, noticing his interest, approached him with a collection box made out of cracker box and said, "Give to the Newsies strike fund, mister?" And then Snyder smiled and dropped in a penny. And look, a handbill that I'm not going to read because it's stupid. And looks like a chart from like a first grade reading book. That's the end of the chapter.